Hi, this is May Said Ali and I'm the host of the G42 On Air podcast series. We are excited to be recording the G42 On Air from Mubadala studio. G42 is a technology company, a global leader in AI and cloud computing with the purpose of inventing a better every day. Each episode in the series will transport you into insightful, market-leading conversations about transformative technology to drive positive progress across industries and societies. Today we have a special guest, Anthony Paladin, who heads up sports analytics at Presight AI, which recently listed in the Abu Dhabi Securities Exchange. Presight AI is the region's leading big data analytics company powered by artificial intelligence. In this episode, we'll explore the impact of big data AI-powered analytics in the world of sports. We'll discuss how this technology is evolving and its potential to change the way we approach athlete training and performance. We'll also look at the challenges of implementing this technology in sports and gain insight into how companies like Presight AI are using it to achieve success with various sports organizations. Hello, Anthony. How are you today?
Hello, May. Very well. And yourself?
Very, very well. I'm quite excited for this episode, not just because it's sports and AI, but it's also, I have so many questions for an athlete like you today.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure to be here. Please feel free to call me Tony. Fewer syllables, less things to type. And yes, I'm really, really excited to be here. I'm willing to field all the questions related to high performance, sport, data analytics, so pretty much everything that encompasses all things sport.
Well, I'm very, very thrilled to have you with us today. And I'm actually quite impressed when I was going through your bio. It's quite impressive and you look much younger than your bio, to be honest. When I look at it, it's like you've achieved a lot in sports science, athlete testing, human factors, athlete management, high performance. And you're also an athlete yourself, as I mentioned earlier, professional, and you've had a lot of experience in that field. So with all of these different responsibilities, I'm quite curious to know from you about your background. How did you get into sports, and especially how you came to combine AI and sports?
Well, thanks for the compliment. So what I want to really speak about today is how we use AI to reverse your age.
Oh.
No, that's a joke.
I like that. I was about to change the entire topic of the podcast.
Okay, so a little bit about my background. I was a professional athlete for 14 years. Mm-hmm. I rode for South Africa, which is my mother country. I went to multiple world championships, Commonwealth Games. So many years of hard training. So I really got to understand the world of sports very, very intimately. Through my journey into sports, that led me into university to study what we call a biokineticist, which is the equivalent of an exercise physiologist. So that went into the study of medical and sports analysis. Throughout that journey, basically found that in the medical side of things, there was a lot of focus on unwell to well. And what we were somewhere lacking was well to fit. So there's a large continuum. So based on my sporting background, I always found that we were really, really focused on just keeping people well, but not healthy and fit. So that's my continuum really. And what really excited me with regards to my move to Presight is just how we utilize data, how we basically focus in on every single data point that we can possibly get to tick all the boxes in terms of health and wellness. So it's a really, really exciting combination for me to basically draw on all of my strengths and experiences to help sports athletes, teams throughout the world, and basically work that into the field of data analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning.
So when we talk about joining Presight, the first thing that came to your mind, like I'm excited to join Presight AI because I will be changing what?
So to answer your question very clearly, my evolution in the field of sport is we would hunt for meaningful data to do something with. So there's always a competition. Mm-hmm. When I was competing, and I'm talking not even, I'll spare you the time, but what we would look at are any and every data point you could possibly get in order to improve your performance. Very roughly speaking, I'd say about 20 years ago, we could work with heart rate and GPS coordinates. So you could work out your speed And back then we were using pedometers. So when the advent of GPS came along, to be able to use that in sport was absolutely amazing. To integrate that along with heart rate meant that you could have meaningful information in terms of how hard was I working and how fast was I going. So in terms of using those very, very basic data points, as we've evolved in data acquisition and the ability to use data, when you look at a company like Presight, which is a world leader in data analytics and machine learning and its capabilities, it's for me, it was just a natural gravitation to be able to use all of that data. I mean, you spoiled for choice in terms of what you can use, and take that data and make it meaningful and utilize it in insights for sport. So that was my journey really to Presight, and very excited to see the capabilities of all of Presight's other business areas, channeling that into sports performance and catapulting sport in the next 10 to 20 years.
How would you, I know it's all about data and analyzing it, and especially you can have so much data, but if it's not done properly and utilized properly, it's no use for it. So, and now lately there has been lots of misconception about AI. Everybody is using and abusing this term. So how would you define it as an AI as a general? And how would you define, how is it helping athletes go to the next level in their career?
So I think the easiest way to just look at AI, and while we're on the subject of AI, let's look at ML, which is machine learning. They're very, very big words. Artificial intelligence, machine learning. If we really harvest those terms and say it's intelligence and it's learning, if we focus on that in terms of our definition as to what AI machine learning really is, it is using the data that is out there in a meaningful format in order for us as humans, and in any industry, for the purposes of this discussion, it'll be coaches, athlete management staff, so on and so forth, to be able to dig deeply into the insights that we can get. And data is everywhere. So data has been around for the last 1,000 million, 10 million years.
It's been there forever, yeah.
We're just using it now. We've got the ability through technological advances to be able to harness that data. Now that we're harnessing it, to answer your question, it's sitting there. When we apply AI and ML, it's to basically sift through that data to find out which data is the most important to use and how it can be what I would personally call to be superimposed. So using data sets that weren't previously thought of to make sense with each other, and that could be subjective data, so what a sportsman or what a team is feeling, versus objective data, which is what's actually happening. Marry the two together to get meaningful insights.
So that brings me to my next question. So what you're saying is that certainly AI is changing the world of sports. And I've been seeing lots of applications, so starting from improving performance, preventing injuries, identifying talents, and even like acquisitions. So what are the most compelling applications in your opinion in this technology that you have been involved in, or you have heard about, that is having a huge impact on this industry?
So I think not to forget the fact that AI is really a tool. So it's like when one builds a house, we shouldn't start with the roof. We should start with the foundations, the walls, the doors, so on and so forth, with the plumbing, and then we start putting the roof and the solar panels and whatever else on top of that. And that's really what AI is all about. So insofar as sports is not going to change, sports is always going to be a very emotional subject. It involves humans. We don't have the robot Olympics. We've got Olympics where human beings actually compete against each other. So it's those that utilize those tools more effectively. So to answer your question, in terms of applications that we've seen, big areas would be analysis of health data. So very simple things like tracking health trends through resting heart rate variability, which is basically an indicator of how stressed your system is, either physically or mentally, looking at your nutritional data. From there, from health, we would move into, say, performance data. So on a day-to-day basis, looking at what your basic power output is, looking at your speed, your agility, so all of the different metrics that can be measured. To take another step from there, we look at video analytics. So video analytics, where we look at any sport.
So you've sponsored UFC and the cycling. Can you share with us some of the implementation that happened through G42 and Presight AI?
Yeah, sure. So within cycling, we mainly focus on health and just quote unquote raw performance. So we're really looking at is your rider well managed from a day? Are they healthy? Are they healthy enough to train, to perform? I mean, that's a really, really important box to tick, because if you're not going to get to the next step, which is performance metrics. So within cycling, we'd look at, are we healthy? And then from there, are we performing? And these are really, really simple things to measure. So we can look at, in cycling specifically, we can use wearables. So if you've got a watch or a ring that acquires your heart rate, your breaths per minute, your heart rate variability, we can pretty much work out where your baseline of health is. Through the use of a mobile application, we can then see how is this rider feeling on a day-to-day basis. From there, in cycling, we would look at their performance, their power outputs over time. And through all of that data, we can basically look at, would the athlete be improving in performance from the appropriate amount of training? And then leading up to competition, should the training increase, decrease, or stay the same? So that's where predictive analytics comes in terms of, okay, you're going to be competing in 3 weeks' time. Your training has been A, B, and C for the last 6 months. What should we do in the coming weeks in order to make sure that you peak at the right time? When it comes to UFC, we use a lot of video analytics. So when you've got two fighters up against one another, basically looking at the amount of strikes and hits that occur during the match, we can calculate using proprietary algorithms what the outcome of the match is going to be. Not only that, but with UFC, what we can also look at is, if we look at wins and losses over time, if we look at the types of fighters, and we correlate all of this data together, again, putting all the information together so that we can see on an upcoming match what is the proposed outcome of how well a fighter is going to do. There's always the one thing that we have to remember, is that the human element cannot be taken out. So you can make all the prediction that you want based on statistics, but you can never predict the outlier. And the outlier can be anything. It could be sickness, it could be a series of random events that happens on a lead up to a match or a game that throws the decision. And if you look at the world of high performance sports specifically, often the margins are so minuscule. So if you look at, let's say, a cycling event, we're talking, a matter of seconds. If you look at often with UFC, these matches will go round for round, and sometimes you won't even have a knockout. It'll basically fall on the judges to make a decision on it. Yeah. So really, what the AI does is it puts you in a really, really, really good position to have a favorable outcome. Okay,
so this is my question. I've always been wondering, if we have these two teams, and I wouldn't say they are equally from a performance perspective or coach's perspective, but one of them is top-notch team, let's say in football or UFC or anything else, but they're not utilizing the AI. And another team that are not as good as this team, but they are utilizing AI in the best way possible, from performance, from injury prevention, from predictive analysis. What would you say, who would be the winner in that case? From your perspective, your opinion.
So to answer the question accurately, you probably need to have, let's give maybe two examples. So the first example, if you've got two teams that are relatively evenly matched, in terms of fitness, performance ranking, so they each have got a pretty good track record. The one that adopts more predictive analytics with regards to their preparations is going to give themselves an edge. So in that scenario, not to completely say, yes, this team will win, but this team has got a better chance of winning, because if they are equally matched, this one's utilizing data better, the chance of making small adjustments over time is going to be favorable towards them. To go with your example, to say, okay, if you've got a team who's very, very strong and who doesn't really use AI versus a team that's not as strong who does use AI, and by AI basically using insights to improve their training, more than likely that quote-unquote weaker team is going to become stronger over time through using those analytics effectively. It's not so much are the teams equally matched and who would win, it's which of the team has got the ability to utilize data over time to be able to become better. And this would basically take one into looking at every single part of your training is that it's optimized. So from your, from your training to your recovery, to your nutrition, to your psychological well-being, using data effectively to do that means that you are in a very, very strong position to become better over time.
So, Tony, talking about data, how can AI exactly be used in analyzing and interpreting the vast amounts of data generated from sports events, for example? And what advantages could it have, would it offer?
Data is everywhere. It's being produced, or it can be acquired on a millisecond by millisecond basis from a multitude of different areas. By using AI effectively, it's to take the right data. So by discarding irrelevant data, and that said, irrelevant data might be relevant in 5 years from now as technology advances. But right now is taking what is relevant and let's make sense of it. So to give an example of that, we would look at all the human components. We would then look at the human interface with the sport that they're playing. So whether it's an F1 driver and the interface to the car, if it's a football player and the quote unquote interface to how well fitted are their boots, how their ability to kick a ball. So pretty much, let's say if you look at a tennis player, it's the accuracy of the grip size. Taking in all of that data, and any data is good data to have. So to answer your question directly is, we basically would like to, when we use the word big data, is funnel massive amounts of data, sift it out, utilize it efficiently, and then say, right, how can we make the athlete better? How can we make the sport itself, the equipment better? How can we make the athlete and the interface to the sport that they're playing better? So it's all of those areas that play a really, really big role.
It's a huge combination of a big ecosystem that goes around so many elements. You cannot even divide it.
It's quite difficult to give a broad example because every sport and every position in every sport is different.
Yeah.
So this is, again, it's far beyond what often what a human brain can even comprehend. I mean, you're looking at billions of data points from different sources over time, and really is to find the effective trends that we that we see that are advantageous. So if you've got a team or an athlete that is winning consistently, look at the trends of the data that we're taking from a health and wellness perspective, from a performance perspective, from a machine or equipment perspective. How do they intermarry to each other? And again, looking specifically, it's per sport, and within per sport, it's position in sport, it's the timing of the season in sport. So to whittle it down is to be quite accurate, to say, right, we are looking at male cyclist sprinters within the Giro d'Italia. Let's see what's going to be the best data points to look at for those particular riders, as an example.
I always think of an example when it comes to judges and referees. It makes their job much easier also in the football matches or any other match, because when you have the AI interpreting what's happening and the elements of when there's a foul and when there's any, I'm not a football, I shouldn't say that out loud, but I'm not a fan. But when I see how the AI is making their life much easier, right? From that perspective, from a fairness perspective.
Yeah, very much so. So with the ability to remove human error, it makes sport...
That's the right word, the human error, exactly.
It makes sport a lot fairer.
Yeah.
It also makes the judge's ability to make accurate calls easier. So often you'll find a team that maybe loses on a bad decision that is completely subjective on the behalf of the referee or the judge. That would happen less. So you'll find that your fairness in sport is going to be more accurate, and with all of the accurate insights that are coming through, your audience can see things quite...
An audience cannot be upset or feel the unfairness. Talking about the audience and the fans, Tony, how can AI enhance sports broadcasting and provide fans with more captivating, immersive experiences?
So what AI can effectively do is, during, let's say, if we're watching a football match, the ability to give real-time information very, very quickly, it invites you to be a lot more interactive. So often what you'll find when you're watching sport that's televised is you're not always going to really see what's going on specifically. And obviously with technological advances, with slow motion replay and with superimposing different metrics on the TV screen, the audience can see in a lot more sort of video game type of format what is really, really happening. So it's almost the combination of sports to an esports type of environment. Just over and above that, the ability of high definition cameras and fast frame rate capture, it creates very real experiences. So taking that into esports and allowing people to participate per se in the sport, it really invites them to become a lot more involved, as if it were real, as far as almost like augmented reality goes.
Yeah, and even the ones who are not able to be there live, they feel they're actually part of the entire match.
Yeah, very much so. So I mean, if you just compare how sports was televised, let's say 50 years ago to versus what it is today, I mean, the increase on visuals, on audio, the whole experience becomes almost, I'd say, more than real. You're more real.
It's more, it's more real, and even you increase the passion and the emotions of the fans. Can you explain to me more about esports, what it's all about?
Esports is basically, in a nutshell, a participant playing a video game in a real format. So, for example, if you look at Formula One, we had Lewis and Verstappen racing each other virtually, and it's actually a really, really good video to watch. It's highly emotional. It's very you can see the competitive
I can
edge.
see you already in there. I see you already racing.
Yeah, I mean it's simulated. So as you put a pilot in a flight simulator, that's what esports is all about.
Okay.
So obviously the physical demands are going to be different, but the mental acuity and the competitive edge is pretty much on par, if not more.
I'm imagining everybody is in the esports playing together from different countries, and then you have the metaverse world integrated in that, and this is a complete different world we're going to now.
Yeah, very much so.
Now, can we talk about a little bit of the challenges when it comes to AI? When it comes to sports organizations, do they face some challenges when they're integrating big data, AI-powered analytics into their operations? And how could you balance the use of this technology with the human element of sports and not lose the human element? You've been mentioning it a couple of times, but it's always a fear, I believe, that people go through.
I think a lot of it is misunderstanding of what the purpose of artificial intelligence, big data, machine learning, all of these words, it's a total misunderstanding of what it is and what it's there to do. So its purpose specifically is not there to necessarily take away a role or to replace anything. If anything, it just basically makes people's decision-making ability and their day-to-day processes a lot easier. So generally what you'll find, especially in big sports teams, is that it's like any big corporation, they're often congested with a lot of slow-moving information. Systems don't always work properly. And what you'll find just in terms of an organization, the utilization of just a better implemented system through channeling communications more effectively through the use of potentially with AI, basically sifts through your redundant information, gives you your more pertinent information, and it basically allows that entire I'll use a sports organization as an organism. That organism is going to be just more, it's going
powerful.
to be more efficient, more powerful.
Yeah.
Through getting rid of waste and redundancy, it's going to become more agile. So through using AI in a really, really big corporation or sports organization with a lot of people, if those moving parts are working effectively, you're going to find that mass is agile, and that's going to become very, very powerful.
I think about it in a way, it's quite powerful. But is there any potential risks or downsides if you are relying too much and heavily on this technology in sports and decision making? Like people will go like, okay, we've seen the machine learning AI is giving the direction of this is a goal, this is a foul, this is not the right, I don't know what. But could it impact to that extent where the human judgment is not as powerful as the technology?
Very much so. And the reason I'll say yes is that if humans sit back and become lazy.
This is my, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it like becoming lazy and relying overly on this technology.
Very blunt about it.
Yeah.
Is if you rely on something to do your job, okay, it's going to more than likely fail. And the big reason I say that is, if I give you a simple analogy, is if you're going to build a house on a swamp, okay, make sure your foundations are really, really good. So if you look at what just look at the internet, look at the information on the internet, look at ChatGPT and the algorithms that it uses. If you look at its source data, where's it coming from? If that data is bad, okay, its answers are going to be bad. So your data is almost, it's a fuel source, it's a food source, and that data needs to be accurate. So if you look at all the information that's gone out onto the internet over the last 30 years, 40 years.
Not everything is accurate, so you can't.
There's a lot of very, very basic assumptions that were made on inception. And if we're going to be utilizing that without critical thinking to utilize for predictive analytics, you're going to be making forecasts based on very, very faulty information. So if we use the word lazy or the loss of critical thinking, that carries a very, very big danger. And unfortunately, it's inevitable that it probably will be seen in many use cases in the future.
And eventually you'll have policies and possible certificates of how to utilize these data without completely becoming the word lazy or depending on it.
Yeah, so just a note, you should never write your CV or your cover letter using ChatGPT.
Are you sure?
You will be found out.
I did that already, okay. Okay, when it comes to big data, or like let's say AI, and recruitment process, so how's that working? Could you give me an indication of how is AI supporting with the recruitment process, and what are some of the key benefits and let's say also challenges associated with this approach?
So to give a simple example to answer that question, if you look at really, really big sports, so let's say cricket in India or football throughout Africa, you'll find that certain populations tend to gravitate and be completely obsessed with certain types of sport. Now, what you'll find is that because of that, young children and their parents and the general community will be playing those sports recreationally, wherever they are. And often what you'll find is up-and-coming champions get missed. So your aspiring athlete that's, let's say, got a vision of becoming really amazing in a sport, they'll tend to gravitate towards a big city and potentially into a solid or more sort of mandated recruitment process. But often what you'll find is there's a lot of diamonds in the rough that are out there that are just not getting discovered.
They're just hidden talents and they're gems, basically.
Hidden talents everywhere. Now, the utilization of using AI, specifically with to say, okay, what are the really attractive traits that we're looking for in any, say, given sport? If you funnel that into recruitment, and because of the internet and with mass and with fast communications, if you can deploy that into, let's say, India with a population of over 1 billion people, can you imagine the type of talent that you would find? So in terms of talent scouts and recruiters, if they are able to deploy systems where they can easily find the talent that they're looking for, you're going to be able to harvest a really, really collectively powerful group of development athletes to be able to form really, really strong leagues.
So if you want to say there's recruitment happening or scouts without the power of AI, okay, and how many years it would take, and with AI, how long it will take? Can you give me just an indication? In top of your mind, what would you think it would be?
Well, if you just look at how long it took for us to go from using monochrome screens to iPhones, I mean, that's been approximately 25 to 30 years. If you look at the speed at which technology is speeding up at the moment, and especially with a big move towards the utilization of AI and machine learning, I would say systems that are well executed can be rapidly deployed in 3 years or less.
And that, 3 years. So that would be scouting over a country like India. This is something, it can change the world of sports to a complete different level.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you look at, I don't know the statistics offhand, but how many people have got a smartphone worldwide?
I'm assuming 80%. I'm not sure.
So I'd say a fair amount. Rapidly deployed application or system that takes boundaries out of the equation. So if you've got a sports coach in a remote village and they have to just put in key metrics, and that all gets fed into a single database, you can immediately sift out your talent very, very quickly without the hassle of having to fly to different places to do your recruiting, which is often done quite subjectively. So if you just think about it like that, just a mass deployment of a system, your talent identification process can go through the roof within, I'd say, 36 months.
Now let's talk about some of the innovative ways that Presight AI is using technology to help sports teams, organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about the sports-related partnerships?
The ones with UAE Team Emirates. We're working closely with the UFC, so in terms of doing their video analytics, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of predictive match analysis. We've recently formed a partnership with the Abu Dhabi Night Riders and G42 sponsoring the Mercedes Petronas F1 Formula 1 team.
That's quite exciting news. I've also heard that I'm getting an invitation for the Mercedes F1 team.
Yeah, you'll need to join the line on that one.
I'm definitely in. Everything that you've said in each and every question, I noticed that you've integrated the human element and showcasing the AI as a tool. So the human and AI, it has to be together, always hand in hand. It cannot work separately.
Yeah, very much so. And again, I'd highlight the point of, it's artificial intelligence, it's machine learning. As if once we close ourselves off to learning and developing, we're going to get left behind. And at the end of the day, we as humans would like to really not have to keep making the same mistakes over and over. I think we'd like to advance properly, and especially, and again, this is why I'm so passionate about the world of sports, is that, as I've mentioned earlier, the Robot Olympics would just not really be the most fun fan engagement
experience. It won't be
experience.
fun. I would like to see that, but it won't be as fun.
But yeah, at the end of the day, the human element and human passion and emotion is a common thread in all sports. I don't think I can think of one sport that doesn't have an element of feeling and emotion and passion to it.
It's all about feelings and emotions and passion, definitely. And my last question to you, Tony, for today's episode is, how do you envision the big data AI-powered analytics, how it will continue to revolutionize the sports industry over the next decade or over the next 2 decades? And what are some of the most interesting things that are coming up, like exciting in the horizon?
So by using AI effectively over the coming years, I think through a talent acquisition process, your ability to find better athletes, when I say better athletes, to find athletes that would not necessarily have been discovered in the past is going to be more prevalent. So sports has got the ability to become more competitive over time. With that, focusing on the human performance element, if you keep really, really optimizing performance, and really what we think is, perfect today is going to be even more refined tomorrow, because we're going to find more data to support human performance. So again, from sleep to nutrition, and there's no magic pill to this. It's really
I want to hear the magic. So in 20 years from now, what's the magic between the human element and AI? If something like it's a dream, it's something out of the box, what would you say it would be?
I would call it, and I've coined this approach a couple of times, calling it the gold medal approach. The gold medal approach really is a simple way of explaining that in order to become good at something, you have to tick each and every single box. So in order to perform on the day or to perform consistently over time, you need to be managing yourself in a very, very very accurate and clinical way. And that goes from everything from your amount of recovery time to your emotional state to your nutrition. And again, there's no magic pill. It's the right combination of doing everything, I want to say, perfectly over time that puts you in a very, very good position. So if you've ticked all the boxes perfectly, you put yourself in a very, very strong stance to be able to perform at the end of the day. So the utilization of AI is those who embrace the technology to look for those small gains. So, another way of explaining the gold medal approach would be that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
It's the integration of everything together through the synthesis using artificial intelligence and machine learning to basically put those building blocks in place in order to create your empire.
Thank you so much, Tony, for your time. It was absolutely a pleasure having you on G42 On Air podcast. And I look forward to seeing you soon in the Mercedes F1.
Yeah, well, my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me. I hope I managed to answer your questions effectively. Yeah, I'm very excited about this space, and yeah, we really on the cutting edge in the integration of AI and sport. So yeah, watch the space.
Definitely do, and all the best. Thank you.
Cheers.